twofold. Number one, during the oil spill, I worked for Dr. Lubchenco as a science advisor and also a science coordinator. And then after the spill, I've become a researcher in the Gulf of Mexico. So the point being, I have infinite capacity to basically offend everybody in the room if I'm not careful. So as I mentioned, I did quite a bit of science coordination during the oil spill, and that coordination was coordination between federal government and academic scientists, but mostly coordination among the tribes of the federal government. And this was a very unique oil spill from that point of view, because many people within the government who had parts of this mission, as Admiral Allen described, this was so broad in terms of its potential impact. Lots of people never had worked together, and so as much as people were very interested in the academic federal government coordination, we basically spent most of our time trying to gin up these new ways of operating, and both Admiral Allen and Dr. Lubchenco described these ad hoc measures. So in terms of the science coordination, it's quite interesting because as Dr. Lubchenco has said, when the new administration came in, they had the so-called Science Dream Team, which included Dr. Lubchenco and Dr. McNutt, but also Dr. John Holdren, who's the current president's science advisor. And so between the three of them, early on in this spill, there was lots of top-down, I wouldn't call it pressure, but let's say interest in making sure that the academic community had a say and was involved in this. And so on the screen I have a list of science coordination meetings that we were involved with, and it started with a very high-level, White House-sponsored meeting called Scientific Research on the Effects and Fate of Oil in the Ocean, and this was coordinated with the help of Bob Gagosian and others as well. And so we had a number of, probably 100 people in the room, very eminent academics, and from that, a number of other meetings were spawned in terms of trying to see if we could get this coordination up and running. And so throughout the spill, there were a variety of meetings, and I won't go through the list here, but suffice to say there was lots of interest on the part of the academic community, even as we were starting to generate information, lots of talking heads in the media, et cetera. So what did we hear at the time from academics? Number one, we need more coordination, and so we heard that loud and clear. And let's say I've sanitized many of these perspectives. Let's say they were more strident the deeper we got into this. One of the things that came out very clearly and very early in this is that, as Dr. Lubchenco said, access to the raw data as opposed to the conclusions was really paramount in the perspectives of various academic people. And this is one of the reasons why she and the people that work for her put up this website called IRMA, which personally, I've got a bunch of graduate students, and many of them are just harvesting data off that site, because what they did was put raw data there. And the really unique part of that spill was it's not only response data, but also having NERDA data out there relatively quickly is unprecedented in terms of an oil spill. Other issues, we need some funding or at least some access to the Gulf. Many people obviously were trying to take advantage of the modest but significant rapid grants that were there, but certainly the demand far outstripped the availability of money. And as Admiral Allen said, research is not part of the response. It's specifically not part of it. And so trying to communicate that issue and trying to find research money within that domain, extremely difficult. We have capabilities, but no one has called me. A lot of people are waiting by the phone that the federal government come down and call on their expertise. That didn't particularly work. We need somebody to identify priorities. That is, somebody needs to call the play. And that was very frustrating. We don't understand the differences between response, that is no research, and the natural resource damage assessment. And of course, one issue there was BP and the U.S. government were busy contracting with academics to be part of their domain as well, and that also comes, as Larry said, with strings attached as well. And so, at some point, there were sort of the general interest in the academic community, but then these other tribes that got created, and of course, we don't have time or resources to participate in all the meetings that you're all calling. Right? So this is all prologue. So what has changed since 2010? And I appreciate Margaret Linen's discussion about the Hercules, because I think it's quite demonstrable about what's changed in terms of our ability to do things. First of all, BP, God bless them, have put $500 million into this research community. So Gomery has done a good job of not only funneling the money, but also organizing the researchers. So when Hercules happened, we knew all the center directors, and we had them all on speed dial, and we really put together quite a package of broad-based science in a jiffy. And that organization, as much as the money, has really made this a community of researchers. Secondly, there's a new approach at NSF. The operating, Tim Killeen at NSF told me at one time that the NSF does not respond to oil spills. Well, that seems to have changed, and I would bet that if we had another spill of national significance, they would do that again, and that's very significant. Again, I talked about the data portal and the data transparency, the RestoreTheGulf.gov. There's a tremendous amount of data out there if people want to use it. Another coordination mechanism which is extremely helpful, which can be extremely helpful if used, is the GOMERC group. Some of the states are well coordinated in terms of the academic institutions within those states, and that model is expanded not only to the individual states, but also cross-linking between the states. And in the event of another major episode, they will obviously be very important. The Restoration Council and the science planning that's being done there, that has the potential to help us in these kinds of things. The settlement activities will bring more resources. There are some that are starting to flow through NIFWF. The National Academy of Sciences has $500 million, and hopefully, and we all ought to talk to the people involved in this. It's not just money, but it's also the coordination function among the researchers that will allow us to act as a community. And lastly, it's often been said in football that you play like you practice. And actually, in my experience, the Coast Guard has been doing a lot of reaching out in terms of the community. It's signed a number of agreements for things like operational oceanographic modeling. They've had a number of coordination meetings with U.S., Mexico, and Cuba, and they've asked academics to do this. One thing that's a requirement on all these oil companies is that they have an annual exercise of disaster response. And these can be tabletop exercises, or they could be full on, pull out the boom and let's try to respond to an oil spill. One thing that we really should think about a lot is if we're going to play like we practice, that we actually embed some academics in those exercises so they get a sense of the battle rhythm of how this actually works in a response. And so I think a lot has changed since 2010. Hopefully we're not going to have the same sort of disconnect in terms of planning and response. And I guess the point is let's see what happens. So thank you.